We got the Dragons next. Fun times, eh?
They're a fun team.
The Dragons, coached by Shane Flanagan, captains Gutherson and Cook. They finished 11th in 2024 and actually were in and around the 8 until literally 3 rounds to go and dropped 3 straight and missed the finals. Like, they overperformed last year.
And they got whooped, didn't they? And two of those last 3 games got floored.
They were, fell off as Parramatta. Someone like they just blew their shots. They're very quickly.
Relatable.
Before I throw to you, Ollie, to give us your 17. Their draw. They play the 12 of the top 8 and 6 of the top 4. They play the Raiders, Bulldogs, Sharks, Seagulls, Eels, Bunnies, Roosters, Warriors twice. They start 5 from 6 home games and a bye. Bulldogs, Bunnies, the bye and the Storm, which is a cosy enough start. How's it look for you before I do these ins and outs?
Yeah, had them down as a middling team. No 5-day turnarounds, which is fantastic, obviously. They do have 5 back-to-back away games during the year, so they have to travel away back-to-back 5 times during the season, which doesn't help anyone, obviously. They've got smack on half of their games will be against the top 8 from last year, so where they finished and how we probably expect them to finish this year isn't fantastic, but they do have 8 games again against the bottom 5 from last season, which you would expect them to win most of those. So puts them in a position. The draw doesn't hurt them.
Damian Cook, Emre Gula, Clint Gutherson, Val Holmes, Lachlan Ilias. I would call that good shopping. They're all 100%. Ins this year. They've lost Jack Bird, Max Fainay to the Dolphins, Ben Hunt, the saga's over, Lomax, Marshke, Dan Russell, Tamale, Tuatavaki, and Paul Turner. He's still a thing, I believe. The other player, which I guess you could call an in, but did his ACL last year, which was an interesting one in terms of looking at 17s, Corey Allen is now available again, and also Cody Ramsey. Cody Ramsey.
Correct.
So some outside back stocks there, but do you want to have a crack at your 17?
Yeah, I'll have a crack at my 17. I've got Gutherson at fullback, no surprise there. Ravalawa on the wing. I was thinking between him and Corey Allen, which is kind of a toss of the coin. I think you don't go with Corey Allen at first just because he's coming back from injury. Holmes and Sully, centres. For you guys, your other wing. Flanagan and Ilias in the halves. I got Lauren Gula. Prop, your hooker is Damian Cook. Sua and Leilua, second row. Fatala Mariner starting at lock. Jacob Little coming off the bench. Got Hame Saleh on the bench, as well as Jack DeBellin and Tom Eisenhuth.
Very good. I'm just looking for these notes here. Interesting one. They said Corey Allen having Cody Ramsey back is interesting. You didn't name Sloan in your 17?
No.
Do you not hear his... Yeah, neither did I, so that's interesting. Now I'm trying to find it here.
And it did hurt me because he was someone who I always wanted to see do really well and someone you could tell who has the raw talent, as they say, but just never really could quite consistently reach that sort of peak.
Now, these notes courtesy of the Mad Dragons VOD, that Gutho, obviously training at fullback, heavily favouring the left. Tuapoloto, Sully, Leilua and Flanagan on that edge. Sloan, Holmes, Sua, Ilias on the right, with Couchman and DeBellin in the middle. Eisenhuth at 13, and then Cook at 9 seems to be the training setup there, whatever that means, which we neither of us had really taken Tuapoloto into account, but he's not a bad footballer. Barn, what do we make of the Dragons?
So you would imagine Holmes and Sully swap sides immediately, which is probably a benefit to Sully.
Well, as I said, yeah, Sully goes to the left and Holmes on the right.
Yeah, I think that benefits both of the... Well, Holmes is fine, but it definitely benefits Sully to be playing on the opposite side. He did really seem to get caught out a lot on his inside shoulder, so it's hurt them there at times. We're going to find out where I've put my notes here for these Dragons. I've done what you've done.
Probably on a piece of paper.
They're on one of the pieces of paper. I've got about 260 of them, I think, here, so it could be one of them. I think there's some question marks around their second row, especially once you start getting past those first two guys that are in that 17. For mine, I think they're going to really struggle when they get into that bench rotation, especially up against teams that are either as good or better than them. I see them absolutely falling away once in that sort of 30-minute mark in some of these games. I think they've got some more points in them this year than they did last year, even
Absolutely.
losing Hunt.
You know why? Because Gutho's going to have 25 try assists.
100%.
He'll do what he does. He'll just be Gutho.
You got Val Holmes there that can just break a line at will at different times. When he's really invested in a game, he can be one of the best attacking weapons you could ask for when he's up and going. Damian Cook, I think it's something they've been crying out for, to be honest. I know Little had a pretty good stint there for them at times during last year. But
Tough as teak.
I think it's just a whole different gravy, as Daggy likes to say, when you get Cook in there. Experience, defence-wise, not that Little was bad defensively, but Cook's as good as anyone in there. His ball distribution is generally, he makes the right decision 9 times out of 10. He's got a good dash to get in and around if the markers are split or they're not there. I think that helps a lot for them. I think it takes them a little while to gel. You've got a whole new 1, 6, 7, and 9 like that. That spine is completely different to what it was. So I think it could take them a good month at least for them. Because you can train as much as you want, and combinations will come, but it's completely different when you're put under pressure in a game of footy. So, I think they'll be more fitter than they were. They're going to be more organised than they have recently. That's just what Flanagan does. He's a taskmaster. He's very organised in what he wants out of his teams. Gives them, they'll all know their job. For mine, I'm really interested in Laurie in the front row. Like, he was really the only bloke who went backwards last year under Flanagan. And I don't know if that's...
I don't know if he's going to be there, but if they can find a couple.
Because
Because you got both Couchmans. There's a big rep on that Pacifica Tonga.
Yeah, 100%. He's giant.
Almost looks like he'll start. There's a bit about that he might even start. And whoever I just mentioned is in the middle as well. Well, you got Eisenhuth and Sele as well.
Flanagan is one that does seem to take time, especially with the middles. He's pretty happy to throw an outside back in there early.
Yeah.
But he does seem to sort of sit on the middles a little bit longer. You saw what he did with the Couchmans. They were ready. They should have been playing more games last year. So don't be surprised if you don't see him till 6 to 10 rounds in. But
and Emre Gula does help. Another trade.
Absolutely does. And
and DeBellin will spend his whole year in the middle.
I heard the announcement, and my first thought was, I've been waiting to see this guy play minutes. And then I went and looked at his stats, and he's been averaging 50 to 60 minutes a game. And I'm like, well, okay.
He just didn't start.
He's just not doing much, obviously.
He'd play those Papali minutes.
But when he first started, he had like an offload. He had footwork. It looked like there was something there, but it just, who knows? Might be unlocked with a new coach. Ricky's might have been getting a little bit stale down there, but...
no, you can't say that. No, please. It's all right. Canberra fans, move on.
I think Dragons fans will be extremely excited for runs of 2 and 3 games, and then they're going to hate the world for 3 and 4 games as well. They're going to be a team that'll go on a streak of 2 or 3 good wins, and then they'll get pumped for 2 or 3 weeks. So I've got them running basically where they ran last year. I've got them in at 12th at the moment. So.
Well, you talk about them having more points. You know what they'll do? They'll tell. When you have a team with your Cooks and your Home and Gutherson in it,
You're on the front foot, you just
they'll come up to a team that just their line speed shot. They'll get a bit of broken field. They'll get a Newcastle on a 5-day backup, and
Holmes will score 5 tries. Gutho will get 2, and it'll be 70 to 10.
Exactly. They will slaughter a couple of teams, and then next week their fans are able to work out why they got done by 20.
They're going to struggle in the grind with the teams that really drag them down and get physical with them. The Couchmans are something, but I'm not sure it's enough to get them to where they're... Like, Jack DeBellin was awesome last year.
Absolutely.
It was fantastic for him. And
I suggest if Jack DeBellin wasn't Jack DeBellin, he plays Origin last year.
Yeah, he'll do exactly the same thing again for him this year.
It's because...
he would have had to have been close. He was...
I think he was in and about there, wasn't he?
Especially, that was probably the best his best form was that time of the year.
Absolutely.
But they really need one or two sort of A-grade forwards into that pack, I think.
Ollie, you've been very quiet.
I've actually got the Dragons bottom 4. I think they are the type of team where they will score points, but they will concede plenty. I think there will be multiple games throughout the year where they score 20 points but still lose. And there were a couple of games like that last year as well. I think the one in particular that stands out to me was a game against Manly, I think it was. I'm not sure, but there were a couple of games last year as well where, they scored 20 points. They looked really good in attack, but defence, they just couldn't keep up. And I think that's going to be the case heavily this year. There's one thing I think, if Gutherson can have games where he did sort of in Parramatta's heyday a couple of years ago, where there were games where you bring up his try assist, but where he just seemed to absolutely control everything and the game was his. I think against your lower table teams, he'll be able to do that. And I think he will be sort of the standout in a poorish squad. Cook, I think, will have his moments as well. I just don't think he quite is the player that he once was. Holmes is Holmes. He's going to do what he can, but out in the centres, I still think the Cowboys are a much better team than the Dragons. And when you're in that Cowboys lineup, you've got, I think, more opportunities to sort of take the game by the scruff of the neck from the centres.
Oh, you mean for Val, not
Val,
this year?
yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah. Whereas at the Dragons, I don't think he's really going to have as many opportunities the same. So I've got him in the bottom 4, and I think there are concerns. And I mentioned it to Barney off camera. I feel like the Dragons are sort of what the Tigers were for a couple of years, where they're in a bit of a rut, and I think we're going to eventually learn that a lot of their issues come from behind the scenes and maybe more your board and your coaching staff and stuff like that, where it might not be the best environment to play. Also because for the past couple of years, there have been as many players at the Dragons as I think at any other club where they've been vocal about not wanting to play there, or not just Ben Hunt, but...
Well, Francis Molo's case in point right now.
Right now, that's why I don't
He's
have
just
him
refusing
in my
to go
17.
back and blaming a staffer. And all we know is it's a staffer.
A staffer, and that's a
maybe
big
the
part
lunch
of the
lady's
reason,
particularly rude. We don't know yet.
Yeah, and that's a big part of the reason I don't have him in my 17 as well, because I don't think he's going to be there at the start of the year.
No, well, yeah, I just
I just think, to put it this way with the Dragons, I just think the whole joint's cooked, and while they have like some good signings on paper, so did the Tigers for years, and they weren't really performing, and I feel like the Dragons are more that now.
Shane Flanagan's never rubbed the player up the wrong way, has he?
Can't imagine. No.
No. Okay. I just wanted to...
Not according to the media, who he's particularly friendly with.
You're not suggesting something there with the old Francis Molo case, are you, Barn?
I hope for the Dragons' sake they don't lose Michael. They can afford to lose Francis, but I really hope they don't lose Michael, because I can see a really good rugby league player in that kid coming through. But we'll see where that ends up.
We've come this far with that. Well, do your super coach, and I'll ask you the question.
Yeah. Okay. So Val was the top scorer if he was in this Dragons team last year. 785K to get him in. Average is 80. Probably averages 70, so maybe wait until his price drops a little bit.
And I assume goal kicks here.
Yes, 100%.
With Flanagan in reserve.
I still think he'll be close to the top point scorer. I mentioned that in our previous episodes. But Gutherson, 675K, average of 69. Cook, $663,000 to get him in your team, average of 67.7 at South, and he probably stays the same.
Is there any interest in either of those three now they're at the Dragons?
As I said, if Val comes under 700, I'll probably be looking at it, bringing him in. If I've got someone that I've made some money on in those positions, the centres. Gutherson, probably not.
Cook is now the one that I've taken to, because I think that to start the year, he's going to be the point of a lot of what they do.
Yeah, and there probably will be quite a few tries set up by him in and around the post if they're able to get to those points in the field. So, wouldn't surprise. Sewer was one I didn't mention. He averaged 67 with 657K to get him in. Pretty rock solid, I think. If you want him, probably someone you can bank on.
He's a great draft pickup.
Yep. 100% he is. Little, 641, average 65.5. That probably goes backwards now with the inclusion of Cook. You mentioned the two Couchmans, 266 for Ryan, average 27 minutes. That should probably increase this year. Had an average 30 points. And Toby averaged 49.4 with an average of 38 minutes. Should probably increase, but there's a lot more upside in Ryan if he gets a good crack at it. So.
We've come this far, and we'll finish.
Oh, sorry. There's two more that I didn't mention.
Oh,
Laurie,
gosh.
I probably don't want to touch him, but it's 370k, average of 40.
Well,
And
he's probably sweaty, but
Ilias, 349k. So as a backup half, if he's playing 80 minutes and they're going okay at different points of the season.
We went down that path with Souths. Once bitten, twice shy for me. Remember last year he was only going to be 300k, and he
Got
was
his leg exploded.
No, it's 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Last year, I forget.
He made a little bit of money, but yeah.
To my final question about
Understood.
Dragons, we've come this far with Flanagan without mentioning the halves. It's now Flanagan and Ilias. What does that mean? Or is it just going to be the Gutho and Cook show and they'll just sort of shovel some balls around?
Gutho and Cook show, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. But it'll be Ilias if it's going to be anyone. Flanagan will be just shuffling balls along and possibly doing a bigger part of the kicking because Ilias' kicking game was pretty ratchet.
I was about to say, who's going to boot them out of trouble?
It's going to have to be Flanagan.
Gonna be,
And Val, maybe.
I was going to say Val's going to have
Val's
to
got
get
a
his
long
punter
kick.
boot on
Yeah.
because Ilias
Long
doesn't
kicks
have
and-
one.
yeah,
And
and-
Flanagan,
Flanagan can get it into corners from sort of halfway. But if they're in real trouble, I dare say Val will
He's
be
not
coming
booting.
in to
yeah.
try and kick
Clear
it
it.
60 or 70 metres down the field.
I think by the end of the year, Gutho's going to have a nickname for Flanagan and Ilias, and it's going to be provider number 1 and provider number 2, because he's going to be saying, provide me with the ball at every possible opportunity.
Yeah, I was going to say oi, but I won't say the C word. But
No, I think
What?
oi, oi, yeah.
there's a bit of
okay.
hate on Ilias, but I think he will challenge the line and take some looks with him.
Which is where he's
provide
what he's
some
quite good at.
options. So.
Probably the worst thing happened to Ilias was Cody Walker back in the day.
That is true. There was a period there, and I'll expand on it a bit more when we get to South, because I think it could happen to a certain other halfback in the Green and Myrtle. The Latrell and Cody Walker's show just kind of took him over a bit sometimes, didn't it? Where they were sort of very heavily trying to be involved in the plays, and I think sometimes it was to poor Ilias's
Yeah, but you look
detriment.
at when he first started, right? The first 5 or 6 weeks, it was all Ilias, and he was doing some good things. And
Very,
then
very
they
good
just
shot
went,
kicking. Yeah.
nope, and just took it
Yeah,
off him and
yeah.
went, fuck yeah, you can stand out there and do nothing.
Cut his balls off
And
pretty
then-
much.
yeah.
I agree with that. So hopefully fresh start is the best thing, and I hope all the best for him because it was a very, very ugly injury, and that he's come back. But we'll see. I'm saying bottom 4.
I've got him
I'm
as
saying
well.
bottom 4. Yeah.
I think
somewhere
they'll go a
around there.
little bit better than people expect, but
But yeah, can overachieve.
that's only because of the guys that they've brought in. Those two will probably win them. Gutherson and Cook, Val and Gutherson on their own will probably win them a game or two. So.
And like I say, that they will put the cleaners through some teams this year.